The 2021 Endurance E-Racing World Championship Round 2, Film Volt 12 Hours of Silverstone, is brought to you in partnership with ESTV, Leak Gaming, SimLab, Motorvision.tv, Global Flix, Racing for Green, and AMD Ryzen Radeon.
Welcome back everybody to the Film Vault 12 Hours of Silverstone. We still have 3 hours of racing remaining and still many things to be sorting out here in the final quarter of this race. Taking you through the next hour, it is me, Ewan O'Leary, alongside Neil Heatley once again. And darkness is well and truly upon us right now, Neil. So is the rain. I can't see any sign of it really clearing off. I've noticed lap times getting a few seconds faster. But I'm also finding it quite hard to tell if it's drying up any, really, because it's just so dark out there. It's kind of difficult to see what the conditions are like, and that can't be helping anybody.
Indeed, the darkness has come, and it's playing "I Believe in a Thing Called Love" and "Get Your Hands Off My Woman." Anyway, yes, it's, as you said, it is getting very dark, and it is kind of difficult to see what the weather is at the moment. I can't particularly see any rooster tails, only that is a complete lie. I can see the rooster tails coming off the back of a couple of cars. It's just very difficult to see. You can only ever really see the rooster tails though when essentially they're in the headlights of a car behind. As you're having a look at the weather in the bottom corner now, you can definitely see the rain is kind of passing over. It's kind of skimming to the north of the circuit as well.
And if you didn't understand what Neil said just then join the club, because I've got absolutely not a clue.
The dark. Oh, do you not know the darkness?
No.
Do I have to teach you young people about everything?
Yes.
Oh, terrible. But no, the weather is skirting just to the north of the circuit as it stands.
Yes, it is, and at the moment as well, I know that there is snow forecast for quite a lot of the next few days here, actually across the UK and at Silverstone. Actually, I'm seeing. Well, a few hours ago, it forecasted it was going to rain at midnight. Fortunately, we'll be done by that point. But from what I'm seeing, the rain is showing no signs of letting up, at least from the forecast, and it's actually showing it's going to get heavier before it gets lighter again here, as Viaductum just have to dart their way into the pit lane. From 6th place, I think they are in GTE. With the demise of Pescara, they're now everybody's moved up a place, including World of Sim Racing, who I have been monitoring over the race. I think we all have, after their issue very, very early on. I think in the first 2 hours of the race they'd had issues, but they never left the race. They've always been there just plodding along, and their efforts are going to be rewarded here. They are knocking on the door of a top 6, and at the end of the day, when they were dead last in class after about 2 or 3 hours, then they'll be very, very pleased to have picked up 8 or 9 points from this race.
Yeah, they're going to be very happy with this race when they can.
Yeah, but you just not lost Neil there. You just cut him off mid-sentence. I think that was.
No, it's fine.
Oh no, sorry.
Back. Don't worry. My internet decided to not like things.
No, he didn't like the sound.
It's fine. But it's fine. Yes, it's going to be a very good point so if you can get those 8 or 9 points from the end of this race, considering where they were after a couple of hours. But I was just thinking, after seeing that Viaductum 63 car, surely all safety cars should be coloured like that. It's impossible to miss. It's day glow orange. It's so bright it shines in the night as well.
I really do quite like it, if I'm honest. I know that will split opinion at home with whether you like that livery or not, but I think it's quite nice. There's no cars behind it.
With a car that bright, that means any incidents are automatically the fault of the other car, because how can you miss that?
Well, I think quite easily because you're so blinded by it, actually. But there's no actual cars behind you at the moment to really show what we mean by the. There's a prototype coming in a minute, so you'll see what we mean in a second. It's extremely bright. They've actually just driven off the racetrack at turn number 4, the loop. Just come out of the pit lane there. One of their drivers, we don't know who it is because they're also in the same location and swapping in real life rather than with accounts on the game. Just cold tyres coming out the pit lane, I can't imagine is very helpful because you get these tyres up to kind of a working temperature and it does make things a little bit easier to deal with, but then you go and sit in the pit lane for a minute or so and all of the temperature you just spent the last hour working into, it just all evaporates immediately, and so you can do things like that. Just seemingly it just looks like the driver's driven off the track for no reason, but it's just the fact that they haven't got any heat in those tyres and they just can't turn at all.
They've got a full minute to make up to that 51 WOSR car in order to regain that 6th place. There's still 34 seconds between the top 2 in GTEs, between the 2 Musto cars. And in terms of GT3s, there's 15 seconds between the 13 Danish Racing League cars, currently driven by Sebastian Hove, and then the 41 Mugen Sim Racing car of Zos Pribek. So 15 seconds separating the GT3 lead at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. In GTE, I was looking earlier on, the 54 actually had a lap lead at one point, but I believe they were just in the middle of a pit stop cycle when I saw that because it is back to normal now. But it's quite remarkable the way those 2 Musto cars have just kept the same pace as each other. That's clearly a team in great harmony, and they obviously practice together quite a lot, share a lot of knowledge with the setups and strategies and things like that. And the end result is they've got it's about 6 drivers driving today, roughly. I can't say for sure. We've seen Di Fuoco and Mercetti driving for the number 53. We've seen all 3 of the registered drivers for the number 54. But in the end, over a race distance, they've ended up remarkably similar on the pace. And it just shows a team really that works very, very well together. And I know that they're quite a close-knit team, and they've clearly put the hours in away from the official practice sessions, away from the circuit, to really get their setups and their strategies nailed on, and that's really ringing loud in our ears at the moment because they're 1 and 2, and it's been a great performance from them today, but they've got to get through these final 3 hours first.
Yes, no doubt they'll also share setups as well between the 2 teams as well to make sure they have the best chance of winning the race as Musto GT Esports. And indeed, having a look behind Zos Pribek, there's 39 seconds, so back to the 717 Unison Racing car. Absolutely at the moment. So with 9 hours gone in the race, the gaps are starting to elongate just a little bit. The hypercar gap is 3 laps at this point, actually approaching 4. Hemmingson's catching Skilvassi to put a 4th lap on him. Yuri Toman's leading for Varga. He's got 1 lap and a bit out there on Jeroen Kuikel. The gaps are a little bit smaller in GTE, but there's lap gaps now starting to form between some of these drivers. Because that's the kind of thing that happens after 9 hours of racing. It just get that little bit more stretched out, and the closer battles we really have going on is from Pim van Ark down to Zoltan Boda, about a minute separating those 3 cars in LMP2, but at this point in the race, as expected, things are starting to stretch out just a little bit. Yes, things are starting to stretch out just a little bit, but no doubt it will rebound like a rubber band towards the end of the race. Yes, in terms of LMP2s, there's currently 4 seconds between Pim van Mark and Toyn Lauer, but that's mainly because Pim van Mark is currently in the pits, that number 15 Jesus Motorsport car. Of course, not that long ago, we had João Barbosa in the commentary booth for a little bit of an interview, and he said that they would be incredibly happy with a top 5, considering the team was almost thrown together this morning.
Yeah, it sounds like a very, very late call-up. What did he say? 30 minutes before he got in the car, he was told.
Yeah.
So that's late, or not very forward planning. It has to be said. But obviously, clearly, there's been some kind of issue there where they didn't foresee happening. and they've ended up having to just change their real thinking for this particular race, and that is fair enough. Things can crop up even today. Things can maybe even more likely in this day and age, but it's things can crop up now and again, and it just throw everything off, and that's exactly why the Juices Motorsport Club GTE car isn't here. They just haven't got the driver numbers to actually fill that actual car and make it to the end of the race. I mean, Nick Newcomb is here and he's registered in that car, but he's not doing any driving this weekend. He was in the official practice session, you may have noticed, but just helping those guys try to get the setup down, trying to figure out what was going on with the circuit and the traffic and everything, but no driving from Nick this weekend, and you can see already from the way that João Barbosa was having to be pulled from the GT team to the LMP2 team that Juices Motorsport Club were quite tight on numbers in the end, they've sorted it out eventually, but it would have been a headache for them.
Yes, there has been. Nick Newcomb is, of course, essentially the team boss at Juices Motorsport Club, and is always there, giving everyone always get very helpful with the driving tips. Although with driving tips, he only really gives useful ones to your team. Whenever I'm driving and he's critiquing me, he's more like things of, oh, you missed that apex, and oh, did you think about driving faster? Those are the sort of driving tips that Nick gives me whenever I'm driving. But just having a look, it appears that the Via Duxton had a massive moment through the S's and eventually ended up backwards through the grass.
That seems to be the case. Nick is confirming to me, by the way, that is the case.
Yes, that is
but he's actually just shed some more light on that decision to move Barbosa over. The registered driver apparently off the pace a little bit too much, so they decided to give it João a go in the car, and he did a good performance actually in there. So well done to João Barbosa for jumping in last minute and doing a very good job indeed. I believe we do have a battle as well going on. Oh, we did have a battle, but one of them's just gone spinning around. The 999, Martin Pfeiffer, was trying to hold off Matt Webb for 8th position in LMP2. E-Team Brit have just taken that place though, because Pfeiffer's just gone for a spin at Luffield. These conditions are clearly not getting that much easier, because Martin Pfeiffer has just gone for a spin, and I'm afraid he has lost a place to Matt Webb.
Yes, Luffield's a fairly difficult corner because it essentially is double apexed, Luffield. The very early apex, there's one essentially as you're almost straightening up the car to go back onto the old start-finish straight. But yes, it's very easy just to get a little bit too eager on the throttle, have a little bit of a heavy right foot and spin that car around. But while you were speaking there, actually, Via Duxton, when it was coming into the pits, it managed to spin at pit entry, just in the right-handed corner as you come into the pit, and was essentially broadside in someone's pit box, who knows, because obviously they weren't there, but they spun on entry to the pits, did Via Duxton.
Yeah, that's not ideal. Not the best, not the best way to enter the pit lane, it has to be said, but hopefully that's all okay for them now. They did actually lose a place there in that cycle of stops to World of Sim Racing, who have jumped over them in that particular cycle, so that is changing, and that has changed around, just in the last few moments, and World of Sim Racing now have just got another couple of points from this one. Where did they finish? In Indianapolis. World of Sim Racing were 5th, another 6th today would increase their tally to 20 points on the season, and it's not the worst start of the season in the world. DISSR Lab are probably, they were probably going to take the lead of the title, but now I think they're going to be in an exact dead heat with the 53 after 2 rounds. Those two cars starting to rise to the fore as two of the real contenders for this one. You might be a bit discouraged by the fact that it's Musto 1 and 2 at the moment, with 2 laps on the rest of the field and 2.5 laps at this point. But let's not forget, World of Sim Racing have problems today. Juices Motorsport Club have also had quite big problems today. Those are both cars I'm fully expecting to be right up towards where Musto are for the rest of the season. So the GT races are certainly not all signed and sealed, as Musto's 1 and 2s for the rest of the season. It is going to be close.
Yes, it is going to be very close between them throughout the season. By the looks of it, those may well be your two early favourites for the championship this year here in the EEWC. But yes, having a look at GT3, though, Sebastian Hove still extending that gap to the 41. That's now to 23 seconds.
Yeah, indeed. It's still going out at the moment. That was very close for the 57, 6th place in LMP2. But I've just jumped up a little bit to Mugen Sim Racing, actually, trying to overtake Fair Racing Team at the moment. And Drillers Esports actually coming into the pit lane just in front. They're actually 2 laps in front at the moment. So they've really played this rain period very, very well indeed. And Mugen Sim Racing have actually made one more pit stop than Fair Racing Team at this point, which is why they have converged on each other. But it's the battle for the last podium slot between these two teams, and Juice's Motorsport Club are involved in it as well. João Barbosa is back in that car actually, and he's about 45 seconds roughly behind this battle for the final podium spot. So it's all going on in LMP2 at the moment, as it has been for pretty much the entire race. And here comes Zoltan Boulder on the back of Pim van Aert. This is about to kick off, I think, into Brooklands. He fakes to the inside, but he doesn't go for it just for the moment.
Yes, for the moment deciding to stay behind Everett, so he's letting inside to just bide his time a little bit more.
He does indeed. A couple of car lengths, a few car lengths just separating them right now. One of the hypercars in front of them as well. Don't know if that's the race leader. It is indeed the race leader. The little LED light in the top left-hand side of the windscreen there just informing us that he is indeed the leader of the class and indeed the leader of the race. But lots of headlights going through Maggots and Beckett's at the moment, and that's quite concerning if you are a prototype driver. Not what you want to see at any part of the racetrack really, especially not this one, as it all just stacks up through Chapel as they go out onto the straight now. One of the Porsches sticking it well to driver's left there to make sure they don't get in the way. Likewise, one of the GT3 McLarens doing the same, P6 in GT3 for that particular car. I believe that is DIS Sim Racing, who are in 6th at the moment. Yes, they are indeed, and just getting out of the way there. But that battle has slightly been ruined a little bit there, because Zoltan Boulder is indeed making a pit stop now. I believe it's Boulder anyway, or is it a Fair Racing Team car? No, it is Boulder. So they're pretty much aligned now, Fair Racing Team and Mugen Sim Racing. Mugen have been making a few more pit stops, or pitting a little bit more regularly. Yeah, they've pitted early again here, but they're equaling out on these strategies now, and we should have a good fight between Mugen and Fair Racing Team to the end of the race.
Yes, you'd have a very good fight between the two of them coming to the end of the race. Of course, we're now into the final 25% of the Film Vault 12 hours of Silverstone, and indeed about 2 hours 40 to go. As Daniele Primavera is currently flashing yellow, so I think that he may be stopped out on circuit, that Musto guy.
Yes, that is correct. So let's just look at this for a moment, because this is huge in the GTE race. He's in the garage at the moment, DNF I believe, for Daniele Primavera. Now he's got to be careful that he doesn't get a further 3-lap penalty if he doesn't inform race control that he's rejoining the race. So that is going to be deeply concerning for Musto GD Esports, and they're 1-2. Well, I might have jinxed it by what I said 10 minutes ago, to be honest. But now Primavera is in the garage at the moment, and he's going to want to get out as quickly as possible, but that's easier said than done. It depends what the issue was, and I didn't quite see whether it was an accident, a disconnection, or what's gone on there.
Yes, it's very unfortunate for that 54 car. Luckily, he's got a lap lead over the DIS Sim Racing car on Thursday.
Yes, indeed. That's going to help them greatly in this one. Yeah, big moment in GTE. So yeah, massive moment in the end. While we are waiting to find out what's gone on there in GT, we'll have to get to ask Musto about that. We will quickly go to a bit of an interview here as I try and find them on the circuit while we interview them. But it's a little bit difficult to see who's who at this point. There we go. That's E-Team Brit, because we're going to bring in Bradley Brookies now from E-Team Brit, the LMP2 team. Welcome along, Bradley. Welcome to the booth. Good to have you along. How are things in the E-Team Brit camp right now? Are you guys satisfied with the race so far? And how are you guys? How's the morale going into the final 2.5 hours?
Hey, yeah, thank you for having me here. It's the race, since it's turned wet, has been coming to us quite nicely. Matt's out now doing a good job. The morale's quite high. We're looking forward to the last 2 hours.
Yeah, you mentioned the wet weather conditions. It's quite difficult out there, or at least it looks quite difficult out there, certainly. Fun to watch, but I can imagine difficult to drive in. Were you guys really prepared for wet weather driving? Obviously, it is the UK after all, so it's likely to rain at some point along the weekend. How did you guys prepare for that threat of rain that was looming all weekend?
So yeah, we did quite a lot of wet preparation compared to dry preparation, because we were expecting these kind of weather conditions. So yeah, I think it kind of played in, considering where we were before the weather hit. I think it's played in our court a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah, you're certainly making good use of the conditions right now. Running in P number 8 in the LMP2 category. Is that the most you can get out of this race, or can you maybe get something else? What are the targets for the final part of the race now?
Well, we're hoping we can push to P7, but we're happy with P8 considering where we started, or where we where we were before the wet weather hit. We were still P11, P12. So how we've come up 4 places since it started to rain, we're quite happy with that. But yeah.
And things are going a little bit better than they did in Indianapolis as well. One more thing as well, more on a personal level. Are you going to be getting back in the car for the final 2.5 hours of the race, or what's the plan in terms of the drivers? Is Matt Webb going to the end? Is there going to be another driver change, or what's going to happen?
I can tell you for sure Matt Webb most likely won't be going to the end, although it's kind of still in discussion with who's getting in, whether I'm getting back in or whether Max is getting in. It's still, yeah.
Still up for debate. Well, hope that goes smoothly and you don't argue too much about who's getting in the car. But either way, Bradley, thanks very much for coming to talk to us, and wish you luck with the rest of this race.
Thank you very much.
There we go, that was Bradley Brookies from the E-Team Brit LMP2 squad. Good to hear from the drivers, of course, especially at this point with the wet weather conditions impending. Well, not even impending anymore, they're here, and here to stay as well. So, yeah, it's good to hear from these teams, but the morale is still quite high, according to Bradley, from in that team at the moment, which is certainly good to hear, and certainly what you need. You don't want a very depressed and sad team going into final 2.5 hours of dark and wet driving. That can be a very almost daunting prospect, even though it doesn't seem that much racing to go.
Yes, it's always important to keep your morales up, especially in endurance races like we are at the moment. Matt Webb, indeed, saying that he wants a top 7, or at least aiming for one. Sorry,
they've just gone for a spin, which is I'm sorry about that, because that's probably our fault. So that's not great news. P8 number 8 in the class. I think they're going to hold on to that place for the moment, but they have just gone for a spin there, and Force Polonia are going to catch them up ever so slightly, but yeah, I'm sorry about that to everybody at E-Team Brit, because we may just have caused them to lose about 10 seconds in that little spin there.
We, I think, is a very strong word in that sentence. They have lost about 10 seconds in that spin, as you said, but they're still 70 seconds ahead, roughly, of the treble 9, as Matt Webb is just making his way down towards the loop.
I'm just going to look again. It was 3 wide going into Stowe corner, and then, it was tricky. A 3 wide moment, actually. Matt Webb trying to go down the inside of the Aston Martin, one of the Volante cars, but he already had a hypercar down his insides, and 3 into 1. In these conditions at Stowe, multi-class traffic and all, it was not going to end well, and I'm afraid one of them had to be spat out the other side of it in an uncomfortable position, and I'm afraid it was Matt Webb in the end. But as we mentioned, he's held on to his place, lost about 15 seconds actually to most of those around him, but from what I've seen on the YouTube stream at the moment, and what you can see at home as well, it's not looking particularly wet out there, but the lap times that these guys are producing are saying otherwise. They're about 15 seconds nearly down on their best lap times, which shows quite considerable wet weather conditions, but that's not what it looks like, at least to my eyes. Maybe it's just me.
Yes, I'm not exactly sure. I can't. Just having listened on board, I can't exactly see any rooster tails being thrown up by cars ahead anymore. But that might just be because of the onboard. Might be able to see them slightly more clearly in the more external shots, if you like. But yes, I'm not exactly sure whether it's actually that wet anymore. Having a look at I'm not sure it's that wet anymore. Having a look at the weather radar forecast, it appears that it might be just light rain coming on and off, at least for the next 30 minutes or so.
Bit of a spin down at the club chicane for the last car in LMP2. I'm afraid Kim Pedersen in the number 7 660 SR Dream Team car was actually closing on his teammate Carl Likegaard then, but that battle has been spoilt by the fact that Pedersen has just gone for a spin at the club chicane. One of those lazy spins where you know you're going to spin for, it seems like years, but there's absolutely nothing you can do about it at that point. You're just kind of along for the ride, and thankfully Pedersen was going at a slow enough speed at that chicane to have not hit anything because he slowed down anyway. And there's another car off there in the background as Pedersen is recovering. That's not his teammate, but a white car sort of in the background there recovering. So I'll have to try and see who that was in a moment's time, but I don't exactly know, or I don't think I know. Anyway, let's just try and find who that was. No, I don't know, and I can't find out for the moment. But yes, it's RRC. So Carl Likegaard actually got past Pedersen, and then Pedersen spun, I believe. That's how things went. Anyway, so unfortunately we just missed that battle, but we did catch the spin, at least, unfortunately for Pedersen.
Yes, and Pedersen unfortunately spinning there. The clock reaches the bottom of the hour and the church outside times twice to indicate that it is past. And while it does that, we'll take a short commercial break to have some word from our sponsors, but we'll be right back after that. Don't go away.
The 2021 Endurance E-Racing World Championship Round 2, Film Volt 12 Hours of Silverstone, is brought to you in partnership with ESTV, Leak Gaming, SimLab, Motorvision.tv, Global Flix, Racing for Green, and AMD Ryzen Radeon.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
Welcome back. You are watching the Film Vault 12 Hours of Silverstone with 2.5 hours remaining, and still leading. It is Drillers Esports at the moment. I believe Martin Hamilton is still behind the wheel of that car. He is indeed. Patrick Gavassi still in second place, 3 and a bit laps in arrears to the Drillers Esports car. We've had another notification through from Race Control, and number 63 apparently has rejoined the race after having issues earlier on. They must have DNF'd for something like that. That's via of course. They've been given a free lap penalty for doing so, or they will be given a free lap penalty for doing so. So they're going to drop a little bit further down and might actually drop near ID SimSport, but Viaducton have had, or the 166 ID SimSport I should specify, but I don't think that's going to matter to them much at this point. I think the guys like Viaducton and ID SimSport are just looking to get to the end of this race first and foremost.
They're getting to the end of the race and banking those very crucial points for the end of the championship. And indeed, have the 777 car you were talking about earlier. I think Kim Pedersen was in that car not too long ago and had a spin. It's now Carl Likagor in that car as it's coming down towards Stone.
Yes, indeed. Things are closing up, by the way, in LMP2. Number 334 has had a spin out there on the circuit, or that's at least what Nick Newcomb seems to think. He's obviously behind the Juicy's Motorsports effort, so they've had some kind of incident, Fair Racing team, Pim Van Ott, and so João Barbosa is starting to close in. That's the battle for third in LMP2, but Juicy's have just caught up in it, and very nicely negotiated, by the way. João Barbosa, two GTE cars going side by side into turn 3. They both went deep in their kind of battle to get to the corner first. That was World of Sim Racing and Musto GD Esports on different laps. Sorry, not Musto, ID SimSport. They're on different laps, but they were battling into turn 3. João Barbosa did a beautiful cutback there, got them both in one fell swoop, and for a GT driver, he's doing some very good lappery, I'll have to say.
Yes, some very good lappery, as you were saying. João Barbosa is doing a very good job in that number 15 Juice's Motorsport LMP2, currently P4. And as you said, car 63 is going to be given a 3-lap penalty for the rejoin, as is car number 54 is also going to be given a 3-lap penalty.
Yeah, indeed. I'm trying to find out for you what actually happened there, so that the 54 was actually out of the session briefly. They've rejoined now, but the damage has been done, I'm afraid. They're probably not going to get on the podium in this race anymore. And speaking of battles for the podium, Fair Racing Team, as we were alluding to, lost 13 seconds on the last lap. So that's a huge loss. And they were doing GT pace because of the spin or incident or or something that they had on that last particular lap. That's not their normal pace, I will add, for obvious reasons. Although João Barbosa did gain another 1.8 seconds on the very next lap. Well, he's not crossed the line yet, so let's just hang on that thought for a moment, because I've spoken a little bit too soon there. But he's just crossing the line and the time's coming through now. He's actually lost time, so I did speak way too soon, and that's not great. Oh, he's just gone off as well at Farm Curve. He's lucky that there's some tarmac on the outside of the Abbey and the inside of Farm Curve, because he just had to use some of it. Clearly the conditions are not quite staying the same each lap, it would seem. It's raining a little bit harder sometimes and then stopping and then starting again. It's very, very tricky.
Yes, very, very tricky, as you said. That number 15 car, what is the gap between itself and the 334 ahead? It is 22 seconds, the gap. João Barbosa is an incredibly good driver, and I have no doubt that he'll be able to close down those 22 seconds.
Yeah, he is indeed a very good driver, so we're fully expecting him to at this point. It is the main battle that we've got going on, indeed, in the whole field. Mugen Sim Racing have lost a bit of time in the last few the last hour or so, I would say. They were in a battle with Fair Racing Team and Juice's Motorsport Club not that long ago, but they're now over a lap and a half behind both of those cars. So some kind of problem has befallen them on the way. Which is disappointing for them, but I'm sure they will try and at least consolidate this position that they find themselves in at the moment, which is 5th place, and a good haul of 11 points if they manage to complete the race in that particular position. Coming over the line again then, Pim van Ark, the Dutch driver for Fair Racing Team, sets a 2-minute 2.5, which is a good couple of seconds slower than his previous lap before that, but traffic can all play into the hands and otherwise to really change that lap time around. Over the line goes João Barbosa as well now, and we'll get a reading for his lap time is a 2-minute 2.5, so Barbosa gains a good 5 tenths on Pim van Ark.
Yes, indeed, closing down Pim van Ark in that 334 Dream Team car. Sorry, Fair Racing Team car. Sorry, it's the wrong one that I'm thinking of. It's the 766. It's the Dream Team car, currently in 13th place in LMP2. Still going for that point though you get for finishing a race.
Yeah, absolutely, it's worth something at the end, and we've actually got more LMP2 cars still running at this stage in the race than we did at Indianapolis. I know that is asking for trouble saying that, but I've just asked for it. Yeah, all of them still running very, very well indeed. We had 12 cars get to the end in LMP2 last time out, but no non-finishers, and if this carries on, then we will have had 24 hours of racing in the EEWC and no LMP2 retirements. And for such a car that can be, I found, quite fragile sometimes to incidents and accidents, these guys have been keeping it A, very clean, but also B, recovering very well from any incidents that they have had.
Yes, and that's one of the more important sides of endurance racing, is being able to recover from those incidents, and then also being able to realise, right, we have a few hours to go. We have a number of hours to go to actually be able to fix this, or at least try and make up time from what just happened.
Yes, absolutely. Had a bit of an incident, I'm afraid, with the 777 hitting the pit wall at pit exit. That is a bit of a red-faced moment, I'm afraid, for Stephen Salsgaard, who's just got into that car. That's not the way to start your stint, is it? You've released the pit limiter, and within seconds into the wall, I'm afraid. So he may well be coming into the pit lane again at the end of this one, Stephen Salsgaard.
Yes, not particularly how you want to begin this stint. No, you're absolutely correct.
Stating the obvious, I am a bit there, but that's kind of what I'm here for. They may lose a bit of time to, they may lose a position, to their sister DSR Dream Team car, which is Michael Ciccolini now driving, taken over from Kim Pedersen at the last pit stop, which wasn't too long ago. They may close up or not with the possible pit stop that Salzgard might have to make at the end of this particular stint. At the end of this lap. Depends how much damage he got really from that one. But it is a little bit of a tricky pit exit here at Silverstone. It's not like Daytona, for example, which really is quite nerve-wracking to get out of, but it's uphill, trying to get the traction down in the wet conditions with cold tyres, going uphill round a corner. It's not an ideal pit exit, to say the least.
Yes, and that treble 7-car Steven Solskjaer in that car, and indeed does not come into the pit. So just having a look on the circuit, he's actually coming down the start finish straight. So the treble 7 decided to not come in the pits that time round. And we were talking about João Barbosa before. That gap's now down to 18 seconds.
It is closing indeed, and by the way, I have had word from race control about the issues for the number 54 Musto GD Sports. So once again, thank you to everybody in race control who's done a great job here once again this weekend. It's for informing us of all of the penalties, which literally no other series I've worked for anyway informs us of penalties in quite such an efficient manner as they do here at GTR 24H. So once again, thank you to everybody who's put in a great job at race control this weekend. First of all, the number 54 had a crash and had to rejoin once again, which is going to cost them quite a lot of time because DNF them rejoined. When returning, they were immediately put onto the slick tyres, which is not ideal in these particular conditions. They learnt that fairly quickly, crashed into car 999, which is the Force Polonia car, and they got a 60-second stop and go penalty for that, and then they were given a mysterious drive-through from the game that nobody really knows why. Could have been pit speed or a cut track penalty, but we're not 100% sure on that. Either way, possibly the worst 10 minutes of Musto GD Sports history, really, going from leading the race to 3 absolute disasters.
Yes, that absolute disaster, as you said, it just went from bad to worse to terrible. Is that worse than worse? I think it is. Went from bad to worse to terrible for that Musto Racing car, as you said, but it does give put the 45 car up into that provisional final podium position.
Yeah, absolutely, it gives some other people a chance to get onto the podium, and I just wonder, it's going to be a great fight now in GT for that second place, I think. Volante 67 currently in that second place. DISSR Lab are in third, just ahead of Volante Racing, and they're all separated by about 45 seconds overall, which is after nearly 10 hours of racing, not bad whatsoever. So I think that's going to be a great fight. Chivan Balau is currently driving that Volante Racing 67, and Volante have got a chance to get both cars onto the podium here. They'll be very motivated to do so, especially the 67 team, which didn't have a great outing last time out in Indianapolis, finishing 11th place, not where they deserve to finish if you look at their pace, and they're showing that to us right now with a good second place performance that they're looking to hold on to.
Yes, that second place that we are looking forward to hold on to. As you said, it's going to be 19 points for that second place, 18 points for the position, 1 point for finishing, and that's going to be a very, very good addition to the bank of their championship points eventually when it comes to the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely, as we've been talking about for a lot of this race about the championship points, but it is important. João Barbosa picks up another 2.1 seconds ahead of Pim van Ark on there. I haven't looked in the YouTube chat for a while. Normally the Fair Racing Team boys are quite active in there, and I'm sure that if there's a battle they'll be cheering Pim on very, very, very loudly in there, so yes. We'll see if that does indeed materialise, and I hope we do get to see these guys fight it out on the circuit. It's all well and good having that position or having the pace to get to that position, but I'd like to see who can really fight for it on the circuit, as João Barbosa has a quick off-track excursion at Maggotts and Beckett's, which I nearly missed entirely. It's so dark out there at the moment that it's almost hard to spot the racetrack at times.
That's entirely true. It is very difficult at points to actually see the racetrack as it stands. With 2.25 hours to go though here at Silverstone, and yes, that GTE battle, at least for second, third and fourth, looks quite interesting. 21 seconds separates second and third, 20 seconds separates third and fourth.
Yeah, absolutely. If you thought that after 10 hours the field might be stretched out and there wouldn't be anything to talk about, then you've not seen a GTR 24H race before, clearly, because it's always like this, really. Oh right, Nick Newcomb is just messaging me that the Fair Racing team have gone quiet in the YouTube chat because they're nervous about the impending danger that Juice's Motorsport Club are presenting to them. Don't know how true that is, and they might pipe up now. Now I said that, but yes, it's certainly getting close, and it will be nerve-wracking for both of those teams when you're not driving in the car. Pim Van Ark and João Barbosa are probably going to be weirdly the least nervous people on those respective teams. When you're driving, you feel in control, and the nerves can just settle a little bit. But when you're watching your car go towards the end of the race, an endurance race especially, my goodness, is it a nerve-wracking experience.
It's that very, very nerve-wracking experience, and we've now got radio. Well, we have radio at least on stream from the number 45 DIS Sim Racing Lab car as it's making its way down towards the club chicane and through said club chicane. Yes, trying to hold on to that third position, trying to make up those 25 seconds to the number 67 Volante Racing car ahead, and trying to keep those 20 seconds to the number 66 Volante Racing car behind.
Doing a pretty good job at the moment, actually. At 2 minute 9.9 on not the lap they just did, but the lap before that, which is the fastest of anybody in the GTE category, with the exception of Jose Berenguer, so second quickest on the previous lap. But this one was not quite so good, 13.3, which is a second slower than Volante. And then Pauli Ahonen behind has just put in 2 minutes 10.6, gaining in 2.7 seconds from the DASSR lab. So it's not over in that conversation for the podium. And what we learned from the last race in Indianapolis is I didn't actually catch much of Pauli Ahonen's driving, but I did catch his post-race interview afterwards, and he is the Raikkonen of GTR 24H, I think, because he doesn't talk that much, and is a Finnish driver as well, of course. So yeah, that's at least what Yusuf nicknamed him after the stream last month.
Yes, very, very. Oh, I'm just having a look at the timing screen. Sebastian Hove is lighting up the timing screens yellow, so the 13 car might have had an incident somewhere in the circuit. The GT3 leader.
He's lost the lead as well. I think he's DNF'd from the race. I think he has DNF'd from this race, and he's had to go back to the garage, I'm afraid. I'm going to have to try and see what's gone on with that and quickly whiz backwards to find him. But it doesn't look like that's good news at all. I've actually gone past him. But I think he's in the garage at the moment. Is he? Is that him? I'm not entirely sure. That's Prebeck pulling into his pit box. That's a scheduled stop because we're at that time again for GT3 pit stop, but Sebastian Hove has gone into the pit lane, gone into the garage, and I'm going to try and find out in a moment what's actually gone on there. Matthias Blom already in race control, probably informing them that he's going to have to rejoin, I think.
Yes, it's going to be. You are completely correct. They're in the garage, and they're going to face that penalty as well. An absolute disaster for the 13 car.
I've just rewinded. Oh, I've rewinded the wrong car. That was sensible. Hang on. Let's just rewind on board with Danish Racing League here. Trying to rewind. I don't want to rewind 5 minutes because that's a long time. Maybe 2 minutes. Oh, this looks decidedly fuel related, actually. That the car was slowing down, and we are on the cusp of GT3 pit stops. So I just wonder if there has been a running out of fuel here from the Danish Racing League. I believe I've just rewinded to the start of the lap that they could not complete because of particular issues. And I hope this is okay, by the way, producer, just for us to just rewind a little bit and try and figure out what's happened here for Danish Racing League. But I'll get back to you in a minute when we get to the points of disaster for not Matthias Blom, sorry, for Sebastian Hove.
Yeah, so fuel related, where about in the circuit did they eventually seem to run out?
Well, I've not got to that point where they have run out yet, so we'll hold that thought.
Got to that point yet, that's fine.
Hold that thought. We'll find out in a few minutes, I suppose. But I'm just kind of waiting for the point. Obviously, when we get so far into this race, the kind of scale for rewinding, if you see what I mean, the little bar that I've got is quite. One little move is quite a few minutes now, so I can't be very specific with the search bar trying to find where it is. But if it's in the final sector at some point, then that's even more heartbreaking. If they've just miscalculated, then I guess it's going to be very, very frustrating for them. I suppose, if someone just forgets to come into the pit lane, because it has happened in the past, and it will happen in the future. But if they've just not quite calculated it right and they've run out on the run up to Stowe, then they are going to be severely, severely gutted about that.
Yes, it is. It's absolute pain running out of fuel. Possibly one of the worst things that could happen as well, running out of fuel, because then you kind of know it's your fault. You've misread the fuel gauge. You can't really blame anyone or anything else.
It's just stopped going down towards Stowe. It just stops. Is the engine out, or is there still... I think it is fuel. I don't think the engine's blown, because there's still a gear in there. Oh, he can still rev the car? No, it's coughing. It's coughing badly. Oh, no. It is the run up towards Stowe, and that car was stopped in the middle of the circuit. Cars going either side. Oh, that is just absolutely heartbreaking for Danish Racing League. They were a mere corner away from the entry to the pit lane, and unfortunately, it's just conked out, coughing on the way up the hill, and then stopping on the entry to Stowe, and that is the possibly end of their charge for trying to win this race in GT3. What a heartbreaking way to lose it.
And the thing, of course, is if they just made it round Stowe, they could just put the clutch in and use the downhill all the way to the pit entry. Yeah,
absolutely. But you've got to feel for them. You really have got to feel for them. I do feel very, very sorry for them. I really do, because to run out that close to the line, and I guess there's nobody else they can blame about it, but it doesn't make it any less disappointing for them, the fact that they have run out of fuel, cost themselves this race, I'm afraid. Are they back out there on the circuit? I believe they are, but they're in third place, and now Unison Racing, because of that demise there, and Mugen Racing has made a pit stop as well, so Unison Racing are actually in the lead bizarrely, but I believe they do owe us a pit stop. Either way, Danish Racing League, provided, I think they have informed race control correctly, and I think they're going to keep their third place, but it could have been so much more for them this weekend.
Yeah, it could have been so much more for that number 13 car. As you said, one corner away from making it back to the pit lane. That is absolutely excruciating for Danish Racing League.
Yeah, and I've just had confirmed, by the way, from Matthias Blom that he's going to join us at the end of the race from a Danish Racing League. So, first of all, a thank you for an interview, that is. So, first of all, a thank you to him for that in advance, because I can't imagine that any of those drivers are in the best frame of mind at the moment. There'll be some very disappointed faces in that TeamSpeak channel at the moment. But they've got to pick themselves up, and I guess they've got to console themselves with the podium, which isn't too bad of a result in the end. So, all things considered, I think going into the race, if you'd have told them you're going to get third place in this race, they'd be like, quite happy with that. But considering the situation that this third place has come in, they're going to be very, very disappointed.
Yes, coming down towards the close of the hour and having a look at the standings as they are, and it is the number 10 Drillers Esports car, still in the lead of the race and in the lead of the hypercar class by about 3 and a bit laps now. I'd say about 3.5 laps or so. In terms of LMP2, it's Marcel Chisnik, the 117 Vargas Sim Racing car, followed by James Schuba in the 17 Drillers Esport, and then Pim Mark in the 334 Fair Racing Team car. In terms of GTEs, it's Marco Massetti in the 53 Musto GD Esports car. Then I'm looking at the wrong one. It's then Shivan Baloo in the 67 Volante racing car, then DIS Sim Racing Lab 45, and then GTEs is Max Bunovic in the 717 Unison Racing car, followed by Zos Pribek in the 41 Mugen Racing, and then Cyril Malvin in the 26 One Move.
Yeah, absolutely. We've still got plenty of time to go. Just over 2 hours, in fact. 2 hours and 5 minutes, pretty much exactly. Danish Racing League have actually lost third place now. They're into fourth as we have the 999 Abstinio Force Polonia out. It was just a spin, I believe. When I see that flashing yellow light, I do worry about that car, whether it's been off into the wall or disconnected or something. But no, just a spin for Martin Piper on lap 300, and he's going to be looking to hold on to that place. He was battling with Matt Webb a little bit earlier on, but he's lost about 45 seconds to a minute since, and so that's another team doing very, very well in the wet weather conditions, like Juicy's Motorsport Club, who've just moved up to third because Pim Van Aert for Fair Racing Team has just been into the pit lane at the end of that last lap.
Yes, that 334 Fair Racing Team car, as you said, coming into the pit lane at the end of the last lap, as you said, and therefore Pimper Mark falls down the order ever so slightly. In fact, he falls completely off the entry list because it's now Chris Gonzalez in that 334 car.
So at this point, because there's only 2 hours to go, I would add that maybe we're seeing the final driver swaps, and the drivers that are going to go to the end of the race now are going to get into the cars right about now, because 2 hours just over sounds like it's a bit of a better situation for those guys. I think that's I think that's a sensible length of stint. Race control, by the way, given a free lap car penalty because of joining with a new car. That's the kind of thing they have to do, and so they are going to drop off the podium, and they do get a 60-second time penalty as well for not informing race control, I'm afraid. So new cars giving them free laps and not informing race control another minute. So that's terrible news, just rubbing salt into the wound really of Danish Racing League. And if I did indeed hear correctly, the cause of the problem, not actually fuel, might have been a computer issue for Sebastian Hove, if indeed I did hear that correctly, but I guess we'll never really know. We've just been informed by, we believe, a family member of Sebastian Hove has informed us a little bit deeper into the issue on the Facebook chat. And hello to everybody who's watching on Facebook and all of the channels that we've got going on at the moment: YouTube, Roku, Amazon Fire, and ESTV. Probably forgot one, but no, a big thanks to everyone who's contributed in that kind of way. Either way, computer issue, whatever it is, fuel, computer issue, crash, it doesn't matter. You're going to be disappointed at losing a lead in a situation like that.
Indeed it is, and really there's nothing that you could have done, especially if it was a computer breakdown.
Yeah, there's not a lot you can do about those. You can take certain precautions, but even then, it is not a guarantee that it makes it to the end of the race, because technology, it just is like that sometimes. It's not always that cooperative. 2 hours to go in this race then. We're going to take another commercial break right now, and when we return, we'll have the final 2 hours of the Film Vault, 12 hours of Silverstone. Don't go anywhere.
The 2021 Endurance E-Racing World Championship Round 2, Film Vault 12 Hours of Silverstone, is brought to you in partnership with ESTV, Leak Gaming, SimLab, Motorvision.tv, Global Flix, Racing for Green, and AMD Ryzen Radeon.